and then you're abandoned, neglect, molested, it just reinforces that, yep, I already feel inadequate. If you don't know what you don't want, it creates a sense of apathy. The only power you have is in the present moment.
Is it going to be something that builds? Is it going to be a life-giving interaction in some big or small way? Or are they just going to be an accessory or even an obstacle?
Get yourself uncomfortable. Do something that makes you not want to be there.
Dude, I can't even imagine thinking the way that I used to think.
So we were living parts of our vision and we wanted more of it.
All right, Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Reese, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite, and I'm just proud to show up for you.
So Mike and I were talking like 20 minutes before we even hit record here. So I'm already pumped up, fired up. Mike's pumped up and fired up. And I know this is going to be a great podcast. So take the time and listen. Mike's got an amazing story and he's got a powerful message. If he doesn't move you, then we did something wrong here today. So Mike,
or I just gave it all in our little 20 minutes.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. So Mike, tell us who you are and what are you doing?
Yeah, so my name is Mike Kitko. I'm an executive coach, a speaker, and an author. I'm one of those guys, right? Look, here's a little bit about the story. I'll just, give you a few nuggets. But I was in executive and corporate America. I was, running the rungs of the ladder, doing, what I thought I was supposed to do to be valuable and worthy and to be a good intellectual human being. And the farther I went up the ladder, the more off track I got. Right. So I often, and I coach a lot of men, and I have men's groups. And I say oftentimes us men, when we're trying to like lead our career, lead society, or lead our family, we often lose ourselves. And no doubt I lost myself along the way. And I started being, as time went on, from 0 to 43 years old, the farther, the more advanced I got, the more lost I got, until I was like a 300-pound suicidal alcoholic, completely upside down in my health and my career. I was so far out of alignment with who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up and how I wanted to parent and how I wanted to be a husband. And I mean, I just neglected myself and I neglected everybody else. And it was just, it was that next raise, that next title, that next promotion, that next step that was going to give me all the next car, the next house, the next vacation that was going to give me all the happiness and joy, until I absolutely ran completely out of gas. And I got fired from 2 executive level positions in about 20 months after, a really nice stretch of just prosperity and growth and success. And that's when I figured out that I had nothing figured out, that I was so far out of alignment that it was time to kind of hit the reset and understand, when I didn't pull the trigger, understand that it was time to wipe the slate clean and start rebuilding for me, and not the way other people designed my life to be, or expectations, including my wife and my kids, right? So, and my parents, and who are deceased, but the way they expected life to roll out for me, and teachers and parents and pastors. And it was all so many voices in my ears telling me about how life should be. It sent me on a trajectory that just wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. And I hit reset, started everything all over. And now I'm coaching and speaking and writing books, and I've got people to teach, and I'm showing up for people and they're showing up for me. And it's really, really cool.
Yeah, and you're having a massive impact on the people you've worked with so far. So let's go back in time to that point, way before it all hit rock bottom. You said you were climbing the ladder. What at that point was driving you to keep climbing the ladder?
One word that I've I guess grown a healthier relationship with, but it was inadequacy. I could boil my entire life down, right? And I wrote a book called The Imposter in Charge, and the word inadequacy is in there about 50 million times, right? Plus or minus 50 million. But the word inadequacy fueled all of it. Is the way I am, the way I want to show up, who I am, what I have is not adequate. It's not enough. Mm-hmm. I've got to be somebody different. I've got to have something different. Right now is not okay. Right. And I tell stories about sitting in a conference room and I am the guy at the head of the table. I am the guy leading this team, a $350 million business, and I am the guy. And I'm afraid of being found out that I'm a complete fraud and that, it's all going to end and someone's going to walk into that conference room and fire me because I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I tricked people long enough. And that's all fueled by inadequacy. Now, I think inadequacy really can become our friend, can become our ally, because the next client that I sign, the next course that I launch, the next book that I write, they'll all be out of inadequacy, but with a healthier relationship with inadequacy. I don't have to pretend to be who I'm not, but I can like surrender to desire of who I want to become, but not pretend to be who I'm already not.
Now, just to clarify, you're not talking about inadequacy from the standpoint of I don't have enough, right? You're saying I wasn't good enough to get to this point.
I'm saying all of it. Like back in the day, there was never, I had plenty of money. I had plenty of materials. We always had a vacation schedule. I had plenty of it. I had plenty of everything. I had plenty of talent. I had plenty of gifts. I had plenty of skills, plenty of experience, but I never felt that any of it was enough. Right? So you boil this down, right? Boil inadequacy and all the unhappiness and dis-ease, right? Dis-ease, boil it all down to one very, very simple, logical statement. If you're not happy with 0, when you have 1, you'll just want 2. So inadequacy is that, let's talk about financial inadequacy. I know where you are in terms of, your message and the golden handcuffs. And I love that message. It's powerful. But sometimes I've worked with people that have millions of dollars in the bank and they feel that it's not enough for them to live the life that they want to live. Like I literally worked with a multimillionaire who had a huge rental portfolio, who didn't understand that if he sold all of it, he'd never have a financial worry ever in his life. He didn't recognize that. All he recognized was that the next rental house was probably going to be the one that was going to put him over the top. But he didn't recognize that on house number 89, that he thought that about 90, and now on house number 150, he thought that about 151. So if you're not happy with 0, when you have 1, you'll just want 2. Inadequacy is part of our human DNA to keep expanding and growing. You can either have a healthy relationship with inadequacy or an unhealthy relationship with inadequacy. In that my business, I want to grow my business, but it's not because I need to grow my business. It's because I want to experience the growth in my business. And that doesn't mean that I can't be happy and satisfied and grateful, right? Talk about growth. Grateful and thankful for what I have today, knowing that when I'm sitting next to my wife or when I'm with my kids, I don't have to be thinking about the next client or the next course. I could be like enjoying who they are. But for a lot of years, no matter where I was, it was somewhere else or something else that was going to give me what I wanted. But it's a path that'll lead you to, right?
Right. So I know that you don't believe that you were born with the feeling of inadequacy. Would you say that's correct?
I think that in the feeling of inadequacy, a certain sense of insecurity is born in its human nature.
Okay.
It's embedded in our DNA. It's how we've evolved as a species, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But then certain things show up that can put you in a healthy perspective with inadequacy, or an unhealthy, give you an unhealthy relationship.
Okay.
So when I was a child, there was abandonment, neglect, and some molestation, and some really dark and garbage shit that human beings shouldn't have to deal with. But the point is, it served to reinforce the unhealthy aspect and the unhealthy relationship with inadequacy. And I just had to unwire that and rewire that in a healthy way.
So how did those abuse and neglect and molestation, how did that add fertilizer to your inadequacy feelings?
Yeah. So when I was a child, so think about this. Oh, how did it? So let me answer that question first, because there's a positive aspect to that.
Okay.
Because when you're born with a sense, and human beings are born with a sense of insecurity and inadequacy, right? So
Mhm.
again, I'm going to say it's part of our nature. We have a fear-based aspect to our mind, to our brain. It's a cognitive response to keep us alive and keep us safe. So it's innate. It's part of the human experience. It's beautiful, right?
Mhm.
And when you feel that, and when you feel a sense of inadequacy, and then you're abandoned, neglect, molested, it just reinforces that, yep, I already feel inadequate. And now that just proved it. And it adds layers. And then you go to Catholic school and you're taught that, you can't have desire. And as a human being, we all have desire, right? That's kind of like the flip side of the flip side of inadequacy is a healthy desire for more, for growth and expansion. And you're told by pastors and teachers and nuns and priests that, desires, you got to feel shameful and guilty about desire. And by the way, you were born sinful and you're imperfect and you're going to hell if you don't do something different. And it's like, holy crap, right? I am nothing.
Mhm.
and all of that evidence just keeps pouring on the fact that as a human being, we already have this inadequacy and insecurity built in us to evolve our species, to evolve humanity, to continue to grow and expand. And then you start to feel the negative aspect of that instead of the positive aspect, which is very healthy and meaningful to help us grow and always be experiencing new experiences.
Mhm. So at that moment of abuse, you were trying to tie your shoes or something, and you're doing your best. You're doing the best you can, and it's not enough, and you get hit, and so now you feel inadequate at just that little thing, and then it just starts to stack up.
Yeah, you start to get these messages, right? You start to get these messages that you're not good enough. And I remember, I have not been up to this point in my life a very handy human being. So if there's something broken around my house, my wife knows that it's probably better she just make the call and get somebody in here, because I'll tell her I'm going to do it and it'll sit there for 10 months until she makes the call. And then it goes back to when I was a child. My father was a very independent human being. And when he was working around the house, and he was handy when he was working around the house, and I would try to, like a kid, hey, Dad, what are you doing? And start to be curious. It was almost like not now. This isn't the time. I don't want the message that a child receives is I'm not good enough to be with you while you're working on this thing. And when you continue to get those messages over and over and over, right, that you're not good enough, right? So my father was a sports teacher or sports coach. And no matter how good of a game I had, and I had a lot of good games, no matter how good of a game I had, he would always point out the one thing I didn't do. When I brought home all A's and a B, it was all about the B and nothing about the A's. So the messages over and over. My father loved me. Don't get me wrong. My father loved me. He taught me the way he was taught, which we keep handing this down from generation to generation, that you're only as good as the thing that's imperfect, right? So it's perfection is the goal. And if you're not perfect, you're inadequate. And if you're inadequate, then you're just not a good human being. And that's the message as a child that was downloaded to me.
So how do you draw the line then between trying to improve on something that you're wanting to improve on versus feeling inadequate about it?
Yeah. So I think with an unhealthy relationship, it's I'll be adequate when I solve this thing, or when I have this thing, or when I achieve this thing. When you have a healthy relationship with inadequacy, it's I can be grateful that I live in a very beautiful house. I have a nice bank account. I have a healthy coaching business, and it'll be even more fun when I have this new course launched.
Mm-hmm.
I can experience this thing. It's not going to solve a pain point inside of me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we have an unhealthy relationship with inadequacy, it's a hole in us that we're trying to fill with this thing. When we have a healthy relationship with inadequacy, it's I'm incomplete now. Or when we have a healthy relationship, it's I'm complete now, but it'll be more fun and it's cool. I'll get to experience this thing. Like, for your audience and for a lot of your message, what you're doing. Some people feel that as soon as they're out of their job, they'll be happy.
Mhm.
Okay. So I would challenge that if you're happy now, then you are going to connect and probably get out of your job faster. If you surrender to the experience that you're having now and be grateful for the gifts that you have, and you'll accelerate the pathway to getting out of your job and finding what it is that you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Resisting what you have right now does not get you where you want to be faster. Surrendering to it and being grateful for where you are right now is only always the pathway to get where you want to go faster. Are you enjoying the experience right now? Because if you're not, you're just adding to suffering. And again, if you're adding to your suffering right now, it's a path that'll never end. When you're not happy with 0, when you have 1, you'll just want 2.
So why do you think it is that we do better when we're grateful in the moment?
Because you get to experience life. You get to enjoy life.
But I mean, like, what changes in us? Like, I mean, we can be happy in the moment, like for a brief period of time, but that a lot of, I mean, when you're used to trying to fill the hole, you can get those brief periods, but that doesn't last. But when you actually kind of get fully great, that's a different place, right?
Yeah.
So why does that still change what's going on inside of the brain and the actions?
So here's my take, and here's how I connect to this with my own example and with my own life. I create. I have a team around me of people that help me in my business, and my job is to create and to connect. That's it. So I do those 2 things: create content and connect with people who appreciate the message. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. So I speak, I jump on cool podcasts, but when I'm not doing that, I'm either talking to a client, talking to a prospect, or creating content. Okay, so now let's go back. Let's go to the creating content. I can create an article or a blog that's powerful, or I can create an article or a blog that's a check in the box. And that really comes down to how invested am I in that creation of that content in that moment. There's much more power in anything that you're creating or anything that you're doing when you're invested in what it is instead of using it as a means to the end, as a stepping stone to get where you want to be. Because if 25% of your presence and your power is on what you're doing and 75% in the future, then you're half-assing what you're doing. But if you invest 100% of your time, attention, focus, presence on what you're doing right now, then, I mean, that path is going to unfold a whole lot easier and a whole lot quicker. Because the only power you have is in the present moment. But your brain, right, this little reptile thing that we have up here, right, with human layers to it, is either in the past or in the future. It doesn't like to be focused here. Your brain, let's go back to the whole purpose of your brain is to keep you alive, to keep you safe. It's not worried about that piece of content you're creating. It's worrying about what's in the future is going to keep us safe and keep us protected. So it takes some discipline to bring your focus and your attention on the present moment so that you can be as powerful on that thing that you're doing. And that's why being grateful for where you are and what you have brings power to the present moment. And that creates rocket fuel for the future.
Yeah. So when we were talking before the show, we mentioned Joe Dispenza, and I think he mentions that he's probably the best one to explain all what you just said and how that all connects with quantum physics versus Newtonian physics. And basically he's saying that same thing about that the time space doesn't actually exist. And so when you're focusing on that future thing, that's the wrong thing. You got to focus on the now. So I think there's some science to back you up.
Well, the past is a mental concept. Mm-hmm. It's a mental construct. The future is a mental construct. And here's when I first heard this, it sent me into intellectual cognitive freaking chaos. Is there is no future. The future is just now later. Right? Yeah. Holy crap. So what that backs up that when you're not happy with 0, when you have 1, you'll just want 2, right? Because if you're not happy now, then what makes you think you're going to be happy now later? Because it's just now, but it's just later.
It's impossible.
No, it's just that it's an
Well,
endless chase.
To be happy later, if you're not happy now, it's not possible because of that mental construct you were just talking about, right?
Absolutely. Imagine, and the image I just got, Reese, is a soccer player kicking a ball without a goal line, right? Without a goal net. You're just kicking the ball, and it's an infinite field, right? There's no goal.
Mm-hmm.
That's like thinking that there's going to be happiness in the future. You're just dribbling the ball, and the goal never comes. The goal is like right here, right now, because there is no goal later. The goal's here, and later, the future is just here at some other time.
Right. If you kick the ball and the goal's not already there, where's it going to go? And that goal's not going to show up in the future. It's already there.
When you're not happy with 0, when you have 1, then just 1, 2. It's human nature.
Yeah.
Get satisfied and get excited about 0 and feel grateful for 0. And when 1 comes, you'll be satisfied, enjoy and have peace and really become grateful for 1. Then when 2 shows up, right? And it changes the game. It changes how we experience our humanity and how we experience life. We can surrender to now and enjoy now.
So how did you do that? How did you start to actually put all of that into action? And when you were in your corporate job, I mean, you had to hit rock bottom before you actually did that. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't put it into action in my corporate job, which is why it went away. So, right? So
Yep.
Within 20 months, but I lost both of those positions because, again, I was upside down. It was nobody else's fault. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I sat down and had lunch with the guy who fired me the last time, and I gave him a copy of the book, and I signed it. And some people would think that was like a nephew, but it was not. It was legitimately, I wrote in this book that I'm so grateful for you because you were the exact leader that I needed. He was a strong, powerful leader, and he was the most compassionate guy. He's got a heart of gold. He might not show it all the time, but he's got a heart of gold, and he really gives a shit about people. He probably kept me around 6 months longer than he needed to because he was trying to get me into alignment. He just didn't know all the chaos I had going on. But it was when I finally lost that second job. When I was in corporate, I remember I had a guy. He was an executive vice president. His name was Marty. Awesome guy. And he said, listen, if you haven't been fired once as a professional, you're not really a professional. So when it happened the first time, I'm like, woohoo, badge of honor. I'm a professional executive. When I got fired the second time, that soon after, I'm like, nah, I don't have this thing figured out. There's something's got to shift. And that's when everything started unraveling to ravel in a better way. And if it was up to me, right, this is the way the human brain works, is I just wanted to get back to, I just wanted a third job that I was not in alignment with, and I would have lost that one too. But God, source, universe, whatever the hell you want to call it, doesn't matter to me. But the source, the universe, the thing that I believe in, knew that wasn't the path that we were going to go down. And that's when I felt forced to start a business, and I figured out I'm just going to do the only thing I've ever enjoyed, and that's growing and pouring into people.
How was, before we kind of get into more of how you got out, what was going on, especially after the first firing in that second job, that inadequacy was still showing up, that you were failing at the job specifically? Yeah, I'd imagine that the inadequacy was manifesting in your work. And was it just like, I'm not getting projects done, my team's not accomplishing things? Like what was going on in the job?
Yeah. So you want the first one or the second one?
Both.
Both? Okay. So I lived in Portland, Oregon for 10 years, right? Me and my wife and my family, I'd say my oldest girl was born in Maryland. So we lived in Maryland, and this is after I was, I'm a Marine veteran too. So we lived in Maryland, and we moved across the country. to with a corporate position because, again, and we moved away from family who all basically passed away while we were gone. But the point being is we moved because, hey, the next job is going to give us happiness, and we were given, the prospects of more money. So we followed this ladder, and then we moved to St. Louis, in January 2013. So we spent 10 years in Portland, and we moved here. Now, the job that I accepted in the industry that I accepted in that position with, I was completely not aligned for. It didn't fit within my wheelhouse. It didn't fit within my talents, my gifts, even my desires. There was only one thing that fit in my desires, and that was the price tag that came with it. That was it. So
holding handcuffs.
Yeah, man. And the benefit package was sweet, right? So big number, great benefit package. When they recruited us, they put us up in the Grand Renaissance in the top floor of the Grand Renaissance downtown, wined us and dined us for a bunch of days. And it was beautiful, right?
Yep.
So I took that position. And I remember the very, very first day when I was checking in and I was talking to the HR manager. This is in the book. And her name was Tracy. And I said, Tracy, I can't believe, because I interviewed with Tracy. I said, I can't believe I'm here. This is awesome. This job's perfect. She's like, yeah, just wait.
Huh.
And that was her foretelling the future. I also listened to and I heard the fact that there were 3 of me replaced over the last few years because it was such a meat grinder.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was such a hard job and so demanding, and so there were so many requirements, and people were saying yes to the big number, and that's why there was a big number. But anyway, I'll go back. I'll digress. But I didn't thoroughly evaluate that position. I just saw the price tag and said yes, and I jumped in, and I was completely like a fish out of water, and I never got my feet under me because the things that were required to really excel in that position, I did not even want to possess. I didn't care about. I wasn't interested in. And man, I didn't properly assess a fit for that position. I just took it because of the money.
Mm-hmm.
Inadequacy of what I was already making, really nice, healthy salary in Portland. We moved here for a healthier salary in a position that I was completely not equipped for. Inadequacy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't have enough money, just need more money. As soon as I have more money, everything will be better. Inadequacy.
Yeah.
Now, got fired from that job. So obviously, thank God. The second job, I never truly, again, a strong leader, strong manager. He was the overall owner of the business. So it was a privately held enterprise. But there was an inadequacy in me that was so deep from being molested and abandoned and neglected and bullied that I never felt like I could just walk into the conference room and present my opinion, present my perspective, form boundaries around myself. I felt like I couldn't stand on my own 2 feet. Now, my confidence was diminished from being fired, right? But I don't think that had a whole lot to do with it. I think more so is that I never, in my life, when challenged, I would fold pretty easily because I never felt like I was adequate enough to really have a voice and to really stand behind my voice, my opinion, my decisions. Mm-hmm. And I would bend like a Swiss Army knife. I would fold like a Swiss Army knife. Now, Marine veteran, tons of executive experience. And then it wasn't until I got fired that I realized that I folded my entire life. It's just at some point the gig was up. That's inadequacy. Mm-hmm. That's where the imposter in charge came from, is that I never felt like in any of those positions that I truly, truly belonged there. I felt like, yeah, the imposter, right? You've got a mask on and you're just playing a game. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt my entire career. But it was just, I figured at some point I would get to a position or I'd have enough money where I would feel like complete inside and I would be able to show up and just be myself. But when you're not happy with 0, when you have 1, you just want 2. The number kept getting bigger and bigger and I just kept kicking the ball down the field. Is this all making sense?
It makes perfect sense. So I just want to summarize that for a second. So you took on a job because it had a nice shiny price tag on it, even though it wasn't fitting up you and yourself, and what's in here and what's in here. And when you actually got into it, now you're like, oh, well, I don't actually deserve this because I don't have any of the traits this actually needs. And now I'm inadequate.
Promotion, but when I get a promotion, like I'll be able to make sure that I can put myself in a position where I can succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally where my brain went. Like, all I need to do is get promoted and I can fix all this. Kicking the ball down the field, right? The promotion, the next raise, the next vacation, the next house, the next car, it was going to solve everything.
Mm-hmm.
And literally that's a brokenness, right? The feeling of brokenness that's inside us. You're just kicking the ball down an endless field.
So all right. So you didn't go back to an executive job after that second one. So what changed after that?
I saw this speaker speak one time, and I went to a conference, and it was an all-day affair. And this is when I guess I was trying to figure out, after I had been terminated a second time, and I was trying to figure out who I was going to be when I grew up, right? So it was after, and it was a critical decision that I made, whether to kill myself or not. So it was after that decision when I decided, okay, I'm going to try to figure out how to actually navigate this life. And I like to picture, I had a big whiteboard with religious beliefs and economic beliefs and political beliefs. And, you know, my father was a 40-year union steel worker, and he taught me life was hard and you had to really work hard to make your money. And the man was trying to take things away from you. And all these beliefs that everyone had programmed into me. I just remember visually just kind of like wiping that whiteboard clean, saying, this is all garbage.
Mm-hmm.
It's all garbage. It served me to put a fucking gun in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably isn't the healthiest way for me to live anymore. So it was almost like wiping the whiteboard clean and say, let me rebuild my life, right? So what do you do when you don't know what to do? You start to research. I love reading and learning, and I just start, absorbing all this stuff. And I went to this full-day seminar with this speaker, and the guy gets up on stage, Reese, and I swear, I wrote about this in The Imposter in Charge. He gets up on stage, and he doesn't have a PowerPoint presentation. And he's like, look, I just found out about this about 2 hours ago, and I just jumped off a plane, so I'm just going to jam for an hour, right? I don't know what I'm going to say, but here's what I know. I'm going to show up for you, and I'm going to give you everything I have, and I'm going to hold nothing back. And for an hour, that guy just paced back and forth, and it was like complete fire. And he told a story that when he was in his job, right, where he had started a business, he was a videographer. He said, listen, I would do anything that anybody asked me for. If you wanted a 30-second video, if you wanted an hour video, if you wanted a full-day video, if you wanted a wedding, if you wanted, it doesn't matter. You ask me, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to charge you something, and then, I'm going to move on. He said, yeah. And that got me about $170,000 in debt. And he decided there's only one kind of video that he loved, so he stopped doing all the rest of it, started doing that one video. He tripled his prices, and people came from all over the world to get that thing that he wanted to do because everyone saw the passion in that one thing, and all the rest of it was just garbage. They were just checks in the boxes because people pay for passion. They pay for energy. They pay for passion. They pay, and they continue to pay for excellence and genius. They don't pay for checking the box. Mm-hmm. They'll pay, but they'll go to somebody else the next time. Yeah. So when I heard that, and literally there's two parts of me that I'm listening to, or that I'm connecting with, or two parts of him that I'm connecting with. One is that he's got no script and he's just walking back and forth. And I always thought, as a speaker, I love public speaking. I always thought you had to be scripted, you had to be polished, you had to be perfect. And this guy is lighting me on fire. Like, I'm literally feeling tingles in my ass watching him because I'm so on fire. Same thing that we did, 20 minutes before. So I'm connecting with that. Wow, to be a speaker, I don't have to be perfect. And then the second, he's like, all that stuff that you don't love doing, yeah, just stop. That's not what life's about. Life's not about doing stuff that you don't love. Life's about finding that thing you love and doing it over and over and over because people will pay you tremendous amounts of money for that.
But Mike, Gary Vee says you got to grind.
You can grind on a thing you love instead of the thing you don't love, right?
Yeah.
And so when I wake up in the morning and we can all run our business from our phone, right? So look at that. There's a couple messages that I've got for people reaching out to me. So I can grind from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed on the things I love instead of things I don't love, right? No, there is no requirement on the face of this earth for you to struggle through life. No one, there's no inventory of struggle. No one's making you work hard at something you don't love so that you can enjoy the couple hours that you have awake after work. No one's requiring you to work hard. You can enjoy what you do that you love, and do it. So how about this? I have a neighbor when I was telling him, and this is about 4 months ago. It was still warm out, so probably 6 months ago. But we were talking. We were literally having a conversation, and he was like, "So what did they saw the family go downhill. They saw me go downhill, and then they saw the climb." And he's like, "So Mike, what is it that you actually do?" And when I started explaining it, here was his question, and it's a good question. It's a question that most people in this country will connect with and will resonate with. His question, when I told him everything that I do in terms of speaking engagements, podcasts, writing a book, coaching clients, courses, men's groups, all this stuff, he said, "How do you retire from that?" And I went, "Oh my God, you don't." And he's like, "That doesn't even register with me. It doesn't compute." And I said, I almost mentioned his name. And I said, "But when you're doing what you love, why would you quit?
Right.
Why would you ever stop when you're doing something that you love and you like?" I can't believe people pay me to do what I do. It blows me away. Now I take it, I receive it. Trust me, I don't have a problem with that. But sometimes it's baffling that people pay me to talk to them. It just blows me away. Where I used to do a million things all day long that I hated to do the thing that I loved. Like the only thing I ever loved in my corporate job was when I had one of my employees in my office and I was pouring into them to help them get unstuck in their life. It's the only thing I ever enjoyed. Or when I was up that was one of them. Or when I was up in front of my organization talking about how we were going to become better as an organization and how they were part of it. And I'm getting emotional, how they were part of it and they were integral, and I needed all of them, and I needed commitment, not compliance. And I needed their passion, and I needed their talents, their skills, and their commitment to the organizational goals. And you can see the emotion. I'm sure you can see the emotion. That lit me on fire, because high-performing people and high-performing teams is in my blood, right?
Yeah.
Not spreadsheets. and some people love them. God bless you. Not accounting and not finance and not, that's what caused me to put the gun in my mouth. Not developing and leading people. I can do that. I'll do that for free. No, I won't. But do that for free if you know what I mean.
Right. So
why would you ever retire when you're doing the thing that you love and people are like, they need it, they want it, and they'll compensate you for it? Why would you ever stop doing that? And we all have that inside of us. We just need to find it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So when you hit that point, what did your career path look like after that? So you had that realization at this conference. Like, what steps did you take coming out of that got you to where you are now?
Yeah, well, the first thing when I realized what I wanted to do and how I wanted to show up, I remember walking up the steps and my wife was up. I'm in the basement right now, and she was up on the second floor, 2 stories above us. But anyway, she was upstairs, and I remember walking in and saying, "Hey," because I had applied. I was like runner up in like 5 executive positions after my second termination. So I was runner up. So because I would have went back to what I did. That's all fear based. But I remember walking up to her and saying, "Hey, I'm I'm done looking for a job and I'm going to start a coaching business. And she's like, so we're going to lose everything because you can't find a job. Right? So that was, and I don't know, there's this piece of me is, if you tell me I can't do something, now you've given me no choice. That I am driven almost by negative motivation, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me I can't do something. It's like, I don't drink alcohol anymore, but now you give me here, hold my coffee, right? Because I got to go and do that. You literally just gave me no choice, no option. Mm-hmm. So when she says, so now we're going to lose everything, got it. That's what I need. Now, as almost like an FU, I've got to prove.
I'm going to prove you wrong.
Right. And I'm evolved past that, right? But because that's not necessarily always a healthy motivation either, right? But I remember just being so on fire because now it was a challenge of a lifetime. How fast can I build a business to replace the income that I had before, right? And my first full year in business, I surpassed any corporate income I ever made.
In 1 year.
The first client I got was the first paying client I got, first paid gig I got was in April of 2017. The first paying client I got was around May of 2017. The business started accelerating in 2017. Mm-hmm. By the end of the year, I was close to what I would bring home every single month in corporate America. And in 2018, I exceeded including bonuses, I exceeded any executive compensation I had for a full year. Mm-hmm. My first full year in business, I exceeded any pay that I had.
And do you think that was just because you were now actually aligned with you inside of you?
Yeah. You start to learn who you are and start to be that, right? That's why I wrote the book called The Imposter in Charge, is because it's a matter of going inside and listen, I have courses where you might be familiar with it maybe, but where at the end of the course, somebody says, hey, this isn't like a course to help me build. I got a course called the Entrepreneurial Mastery course. And it's, hey, this didn't help me build my business. No, that's not what it was ever intended to do. It was help you to understand yourself, because there's qualities that you must possess and you must be aware of if you're going to build an entrepreneurial venture that's aligned with who you are. Because when you align your business with who you are, it'll build quickly. If you try to build something that you're not aligned with, it will build slowly, and you'll build it out of scarcity instead of passion, fear instead of purpose. So when every course I have, whether it be the life mastery, the entrepreneurial mastery, the sales mastery, it's let's figure out who's in here and let's bring that person to the party, right? So it's an internal game. As soon as I got clear about who I was, what I wanted, what my talents, my gifts, my skills, who I was in the world and who I wasn't in the world, I got to build a business based on that. Mm-hmm. And I was sharing with Reese before we jumped on, when you get clear about who you want to work with and you share that with the world, the right people lean in and the wrong people lean away. Because you don't need to be all things to all people. You just need to tell them who you are, tell them what you're after and how you want to, like what's in it for them, and the right people will show up. Trust me. The right people will show up. But what you have to do is get past the naysaying in your mind that it can't be that easy. Because it is. So I teach men 3 things. I teach one thing in 3 different areas. I teach them how to lead themselves, how to lead in their career and their society, and how to lead in their family. Because I lost myself. Because I lost myself, I never showed up as myself in my career. And when I couldn't do either of those things, I really didn't show up to lead my family. I was trying to survive. Mm-hmm. And when I figured out who I was, everything else changed. When I learned how to lead myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, when I surrendered to who I was, everything else fell in line and life became a whole lot easier.
So what do you say to that guy? Maybe it's the old you who's in that executive position. He's an alcoholic or he's got some other addictions. What do you say to him?
Yeah. What do you want? What do you want? And most people, do you know what their answer is when you ask them what they want?
More money.
No, I don't know what I want.
Hmm.
What do you really want? We're so focused on what we don't want. A lot of time we don't spend any time on trying to get clear about what we do want.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I had this client. She could build a business like no tomorrow, man. Money was not her issue. She'd get a concept for a business and she would open it. She would get funding, open it, and it was profitable in months. No issues. Her health was upside down. Her relationships were abusive. She had some gambling issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there were so many things that were upside down in her life, but she could build a business like no tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So when I asked her, I said, what do you want in your health, in your relationships, in your relationship with money? She said, it's interesting because I know what I want in my business, but I've never spent any time on getting clear about those things. When you don't know what you want, you can't build it.
Mm-hmm.
But we sure as shit know what we don't want. And we focus on that all the time. And that's what we create. We create more of what we don't want. So whenever I'm with someone and they're saying, hey, I got this struggle and this struggle, and well, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know I don't want to be those things, but that's not enough.
So
right?
how do you help them figure out what it is that they do want?
Yeah, turn them inside, turn them into themselves. And what do you want? Let's get clear about what you want your health to look like. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they haven't really dove into those areas in your health. We'll spend time in our wealth, right? But our hobbies, what we want our relationship with our wives or our spouse look like, our kids. When they haven't spent any time because of two things. One is they don't feel like they deserve it. Or number two, they'll feel like when they don't create it, they'll be disappointed. Mm-hmm. So they just don't even spend any time on it. It's impossible, so why even bother? Well, that's just going to keep you in the mouse or the hamster wheel of just keep spinning, and tomorrow is going to show up just like today. Mm-hmm. And the day after is going to show up just like tomorrow. You're going to keep living the same life. The way to break out of the cycle is to understand what you are like. What do you want to create? And when you get clear about what you want to create, now you have something to run towards instead of running away. We've run away our whole lives. We run away from fear. We run away from an empty bank account. We run away from conflict with our spouses. We run away from, losing our house. We run away from a lot of things. But when you make that switch and stop running away from something and start running towards something, it's a game changer. Mm-hmm. So then you couple that with, who am I? What are my talents? You do an internal inventory, right? Who am I? What do I have to work with? What tools do I have to work with? What do I want? Now you start to put those together and figure out how to get to where you want with who you are, not with who you're not.
Mm-hmm. Where does all this come from that we don't know what we want to begin with? And just like a bigger picture in society, what's going on?
Yeah, personally, I feel it's because we're taught to survive and not to thrive or not to live on purpose. Mm-hmm. So for me, again, going back to being raised in a family where my father was a steel worker, and when I'd say, Dad, I don't want you to go to work, he'd say, Son, I don't want to go to work either. But somebody's got to keep a roof over your head, and if I don't go to work, we don't eat. Mm-hmm. That's all fear-based.
Yeah.
Right? That bakes fear into I remember having a discussion with my dad one time, walking home from we were playing ball, and there's another story in The Imposter in Charge about walking home in a different conversation we had. But I remember walking home from the sandlot, right? We used to go down and play ball. And, a police officer drove by. And I said, Dad, I'm sure glad you'll never go to jail. I don't know where that came from, right? I'm sure glad you'll never go to jail. And he's like, Mike, you never know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Somebody could make a mistake and misidentify me. And now I'm in prison and I didn't do it. And I'm like, holy crap, for a 7-8-year-old to process that someone could mistake your identity and now you're going to prison, right? Think about the ramifications of that.
So now you're scared of cops for the rest of your life.
Now you're scared of cops. Now you're scared of, well, it doesn't matter if I live a good life, a healthy life. Somebody could just mistake me and it all goes to shit. Think about when our parents are living in fear-based paranoia almost.
Mm-hmm.
Going to lose, need to do something that we don't want to do to make money. My father loved me. My mother loved me. They did the best they could. In some cases, it just wasn't very good, right?
It wasn't intentional that he was trying to instill that in you.
No. When they like neglected me and when they didn't pay attention, it's not because they didn't love me. It's just because they didn't know how to do any better.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we only pass on to our generation what we learned, right? We're a culmination and an accumulation of all these generational garbage-based beliefs that we're handed down, right? Mm-hmm. We're just squeezing the balloon from the bottom of the freaking balloon. But, when you're taught that the world is dangerous, and I grew up in an area where there was a lot of fights and a lot of violence, and that didn't help either. Now you're scared of money. You're scared of losing your house. You're scared of getting misidentified and going to jail. You're scared of stepping out of your house because you're going to get into a fight. You're growing up, and it just feels like a volatile world, and it's just dangerous. So now I know I got this all figured out. I just got to survive.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's what life's about. I just got to survive. So, and one of the taglines I use, I guess, is I guide men to move or to shift from survivorship to leadership, right? Because it's the reason we do things that we don't want to do to earn money is survivorship.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we were susceptible to fear is because of survivorship. The reason we shrink ourselves for the benefit of other people is for survivorship. It's not for leadership. It's for survival. The reason I personally feel that I have 3 anchors, right? 3 anchors that I connect with every day. Number 1 is there's no single way to do anything. There's no one belief that's a one size fits all, and there's no one way for anyone to live,
mm-hmm.
right? 7.7 billion people. To think that there's one way is insane. Or one belief system, or one religion, it's insane. So, no one way to do anything. Number 2 is you matter just as much as anybody on the face of the planet. You're just as significant. You're no more significant. You're no less than significant than anybody else, and you're the most important person in your life. Number 3 is you are not here to survive or play small. You are here to show up and lead. All of us. Some people do. Some people don't. If you don't, it's because of fear. If you do, it's because you're attached and connected to your purpose,
mm-hmm.
right? But I truly believe that none of us are here to just play small and survive. But that seems to be what most people are just trying to do, is play small, survive, make it to payday, make it to their next vacation, make it to Friday, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Monday, it's not Monday that sucks. It's your fucking life that sucks,
right?
It's your choices.
Yeah.
It's not Monday. Monday's fine, right? Your job is fine. It might not be for you, but your job is fine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of understanding that if you're in a place that you don't want to be, it's because you're scared of really moving towards where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's all fear-based.
And it's toxic too. I mean, look at depression in society, anxiety. It's an epidemic.
Yeah. And we over-medicate everything instead of feeling, right? You remember this, right? Courage is not the absence of emotion. Courage is feeling the emotion and moving through it anyway.
Yep.
Emotional courage is feeling the fear, feeling the anxiety, and moving towards your goal, not feeling it. And all we try to do is take medication, sedate, drink, have sex, gamble, work out of our emotion. We try to make it go away. We turn on television for 10 hours. We, what is it called when you watch episodes?
Binge watch.
Binge watch. We
Yeah.
binge watch shows, right? That's one of the biggest epidemics going on.
Yeah.
We binge watch these shows because we're practicing survivorship. We're practicing escape. Entertainment instead of education. You hate your job. You hate what's in your bank account, but you're going to sit and binge watch for 10 hours to escape your reality. which might require you to move in a different direction, but you'd rather not think about that. So now you're going to watch, Courtney Cox on Friends for, 100 episodes.
Even though the show's almost 30 years old.
Yeah. But anyway, so entertainment's good. But intentional entertainment.
Right. Yeah. To what extent? All right, you watch a episode a night, even not 10 episodes a night, not a season a night.
Intentional entertainment is healthy, right? Escape is not.
Right.
But we use many, many things for escape, including our jobs sometimes. We use it to escape.
Mm-hmm.
If things are chaotic, you go to the office and you stay there 16 hours, right?
Yeah.
It's an escape mechanism.
Escape.
Instead of addressing the real issue, the root cause, you just escape. You find a way out. You hit the bar on the way home because you don't want to go home. It's an escape mechanism.
Yeah.
Instead of addressing the issue, you just escape.
Yeah. And escape kept us alive when we were being chased by saber-toothed tigers. But that's not what's going on.
Yeah. We're practicing avoidance. That's what, look at all the medication that we take. It's all avoidance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Mike, what's the vision you have for what you're doing next?
Wow, that's a big question. Because the cool thing is it's ever evolving. Because when you understand and I guess you surrender to inadequacy and realize that it's not that I have to build a business. It's not that I have to live the rest of my life. It's that I get to build this business and I get to experience the rest of my life, and it's going to be really cool. I've just launched in January. So up to this point, I've primarily built my business through two mechanisms, and that's one-on-one coaching and through courses. And the courses are available, and I still do one-on-one coaching. But my calling right now and the purpose that I'm aligned with is helping men move from survivorship to leadership, is helping as many men as possible really show up for themselves and learn to lead themselves so that they can learn to truly lead society, because I think that's really the sweet spot of what being a man means, is leading society, is showing up as yourself to step into some meaningful, significant role and create impact and make sure that we matter. We leave the planet better than we found it. And then that allows us, those two things allow us to show up for our family more powerfully, right? As a man, and I'm speaking to you guys out there, when we pour into ourselves and really surrender to who we are, when we know we're meaningful and we've created impact and we've impacted other people in a positive way, it's really easy to walk into your house and be a powerful spouse and a powerful parent that allows your wife and your kids to be themselves without the feeling or the need to manipulate, shame, guilt, discourage, tear down. You get to lift them up and let them be the beautiful beings that they are, because you feel your personal power. You feel significant in the world. So I've built a membership community for guys, and I'm mobilizing a movement, Reese. I'm mobilizing a movement of men. I call it the awakened alpha male. I'm mobilizing, call it the Awakened Alpha Project, mobilizing a movement where guys stop neglecting themselves and learn to lead themselves. And then, think about the golden handcuffs and how it fits in. Because when we fully surrender to ourselves and we look to create impact in the world, people pay for passion. And when you surrender to who you are and what you want to be, the world starts showering you with gifts, monetary gifts and opportunities. People might call you for podcasts and say, what are you doing? What's the magic sauce, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then that allows us to show up for the people that matter most, and that's our family and our wife and our kids. So mobilizing a movement to get out of this 1950s, we got to sacrifice ourselves for the well-being of our family. We skip this society career step, which is super meaningful, important, and we don't live a life of self-sacrifice anymore. We live a life of purpose. We live a life of significance and love, letting others voluntarily evolve.
And so if they want to get in on that, where do they go?
Yeah, if you go to my website, mikekitko.com, so www.mikekitko.com, Kitko.com. Everything you need there. Under coaching, you'll find the membership community. I'm also launching a mastermind in March, but I haven't truly formally announced that yet. But the details of that's up on the website as well. But membership community, how to connect with the mastermind, how to connect with one-on-one coaching, courses, the imposter in charge, it's all available on the website. Just go to MikeKitko.com. You'll find everything that you need to move your life into a state of leadership from survivorship.
Oh, that's awesome. So you and I could talk about books all day.
Absolutely.
What is one book that will change someone's life?
One book that will change someone's life. One book. I just had an inventory of 100 books show up in my head. It's called The Untethered Soul. I don't know if that's going to show up reversed or not, but it's a book called The Untethered Soul. It's by Michael Singer. The Untethered Soul was, and I still anchor with it because we get in our heads, right? And we start to experience mental chaos and mental self-doubt and a lack of understanding of the fact that we have a mind and we have a body and we are a soul. When we get in our mind too much, it starts to lead us in directions that aren't healthy and natural for us. And The Untethered Soul was probably the book, or is the book, that helps you understand that you have thoughts. You're not your thoughts. You can either observe them or participate in them. And if you participate in them, you're going to be, most of your thoughts are negative. So you're going to be going down a path that's not natural or healthy, and it's very fear-based. So The Untethered Soul for me helped me understand, and it helps me today, helps a lot of my clients understand the fact that you're going to have these thoughts, but you don't have to follow the trail and the path that they're going to lead you on. That you get to disconnect from those and get back on the trail that's meant perfectly for you.
Okay. So The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you expected me to say The Imposter in Charge, right?
I kind of thought you might, but
Yeah.
I figured you'd throw out another one there. You talked about that a little bit already. So what podcast would you say that you can't live without?
What podcast can I live without? There's no single podcast. I dabble in a little bit of all of them, mostly spiritually based. So I am a spiritually based coach in terms of there's this spiritual aspect. So there's a lot of podcasts that, that connect. You and I talk about Dr. Joe Dispenza and Michael Singer, dabble in the spiritual podcast. And there's a spiritual business based element to building a podcast. So not one, I can't give you one name.
Okay. All right.
I bounce. I'm a podcast bouncer.
Well, that's fair too. I mean, if we just only listen to one, I think we'd kind of limit ourselves from being able to learn even more. There's just so much information in podcasts. So we've talked about your book, we've talked about your courses, your coaching, your Alpha Male Project. What else do you got going on? What else would you like people to know about?
I think that's it for now. I think that's mostly what I have. How about this? Over the next few months, what I'm working on is the Awakened Alpha Project podcast. So actually launching a podcast where I'm looking to have other men show up and interview them that are living a life of leadership, that are showing up for themselves, their society, and their family in a powerful way, in a healthy way. So I would encourage you guys to take a look at my website, and you can find on various pages, but find the button that says the Awakened Alpha Manifesto, and read what the Awakened Alpha Male means to me, and you'll see exactly who's going to show up on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know that's going to be great. So reach out to you at MikeKitko.com. What action should a viewer or listener take right now? Right now,
do an inventory of what you want in your life. Understand that we live in a swirl of what we don't want. We know, and here's a really cool concept for you. Right now, we're both in lit rooms. Okay, right? Mm-hmm. So have you taken any time? I'm asking you directly, Reese. Since you've walked in the room, have you taken any time to fully appreciate the light?
Oh, no, I have not.
You haven't. You haven't.
I was actually worried about how much it's bothering me because I got a couple other lights here. I'm like, man, it's making my eyes color.
No, you haven't. So you haven't like taken a second and you haven't been grateful for the light. But if you turn off the light, you sit in the dark for 30 minutes. When you turn the light on, you're going to appreciate it a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the action: is every experience helps us either figure out what we want or what we don't want, and you need both. You need to experience what you don't want so that you can understand and appreciate and get clear about what you do want. You haven't been grateful for the light because you haven't been without the light. But if you turn off the light for a significant period of time, you're going to truly appreciate being able to walk out of your room and seeing where you're going and where the door is and what book to pick up and things like that. So you've got to experience both to really appreciate the fullness and the richness of what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what you want or you know what you don't want. I guarantee you know what you don't want. If you're in a toxic, relationship with your spouse, you know you don't want to be in that kind of toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
If you've mistreated your kids in any way, and I say this not out of judgment because I did for a lot of years. If you've mistreated your kids, now you know who you don't want to be. If you're broke, you know you don't want to be broke, right? If you're in a career that you don't love, you know you don't want to be in a career that you don't love. You understand what that pain looks like. And that is like rocket fuel. That's like turning the lights off. So now when you turn the lights on, you're going to appreciate having what you want a lot more. So sit down today and take a full inventory of what you want in your health, your wealth, your relationship, your hobbies, travel schedule, what you want your house to look like, what you want your bank account to look like. Just do a full inventory and start to see maybe in some aspects you already are living the life that you want to live in certain aspects. And that can help you understand the delta and where your opportunities are.
Yeah, I love that concept of experiencing both. I've talked about with debt, because financial concepts are a little easier for the most part than spiritual ones usually. So like with debt, I've been debt free, but I'm in debt, and I do not like being in debt as much as I like to be in debt free. So all right, now I got to get back to being debt free. And
yeah. So being in debt gives you the motivation and the the fuel to become debt free. It's awesome. Without one, if you don't know what you don't want, it creates a sense of apathy. Right?
Yep. And complacency comes in with that too.
Sure.
It sits in, and that's where the golden handcuffs are.
That's right.
So
cool.
All right, Mike. Well, I very much appreciate having you on. This is powerful. If somebody didn't get anything out of this, then I don't think they were listening. So
yeah, and if you need more, just contact me, and I'd love to show up for you.
I appreciate it. Thanks,
Reese,
Mike.
Thanks for having me on, Reese.
Yeah.
Before you go, if you'd like to have a one-on-one discussion about how you can get more fulfillment out of your life, I'm hosting free one-on-one, 1-hour conversations to help you get more out of your life. Let's help you get out of your golden handcuffs. If you want to set up an appointment, reach out to me at ghg@goldenhandcuffsguy.com. We'll set something up, get this going, and get you out of your golden handcuffs.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a rating on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever platform you're listening on. If you want to see more, go to goldenhandcuffsguy.com, where you have access to my blog, my podcasts, and a bunch of other information to help you remove your golden handcuffs.